From our reading today from Ezekiel, I will sprinkle clean water upon you. I will cleanse you. A new heart I will give you. A new spirit I will put within you. I will put my spirit within you. I will remove the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Today we will all be witnesses to a new birth of the Spirit. Curtis will now forever be a part of a community of faith with us here, as well as with the larger community of over 2 billion people in the world who call themselves Christians. None of us can know now what being a part of that will require of us or of Curtis, nor what it will provide to us. We all grew up somewhere, we all began somewhere, and we all end our journey usually somewhere else. There is no way I could have known when I was baptized as a Southern Baptist kid who found his way difficult through life that I would be standing here in front of you to actually be a part of this service to welcome a new birth into our Christian world. Just like we had Joe a couple of weeks ago up here telling his story, and Stephen last week telling his story. We all have stories, we all have journeys that we go on in life, and what we're going to be doing here today is becoming a part of that journey for little Curtis. We don't know where it's going to go, but we know that we're with him now, and we'll be with him in spirit as he journeys through his life. This past week, I had a chance to go on vacation and get away, and I went down to South Carolina to see my sister and my younger brother, staying on the beach and looking out at God's great creation, and it always gives me a chance to ponder about things. So I did, and I'm not going to bore you with all my ruminations that I had as I was sitting and sipping a margarita and looking at the stars. But I will tell you that it does open your mind when you do that. And it depends on how many margaritas you have. It can also close your mind if you're not careful. So it was a joyous time for me. And during the past week, I got to hear some wonderful stories from both my brother and my sister, and to walk a little bit through their lives with them, which we don't get to do very often. So it is all wonderful, and all the time that I was doing that, I felt so much a part of the beauty of God's creation through witnessing everything that was there. And that's what we're going to be doing here today, is all witnessing the beauty of God's creation. And the baptismal service sort of brings that home as we journey through it here today. Spending time in that creation with those that we love is something that is important for us to do, and something that we often don't take time to do. When we all recognize that we are born of the Spirit, we will understand that our true identity is as children of God. Once we have claimed it and settled into it, we can live in a world that gives us very much joy, as well as something that we will all discover. It is still a world that is fraught with pain. We can receive the praise of God as well as the pain that comes to us as an opportunity for strengthening our basic identity, the identity that God gives us through our baptism, because that identity makes us free to know that we are anchored beyond all human contemplation and all human frailty. We are anchored in God's love. We belong to God, and it is as a child of God that we are sent into the world. Curtis, you too are now among us to be sent into the world to show everyone around you God's love. There will be wounds for all of us as we journey through life, but I am increasingly convinced that it is possible to live those wounds not as some gaping abyss that cannot be filled, but instead we can live them as the healing wounds of Christ that encourage us to detach ourselves from the hurts of the past and to trust in the glory to which we are all called in our lifetimes. I believe that gratitude is the most fruitful way of deepening our own consciousness that we are not an accident. We were all put here for a purpose as a divine choice of God. It is important to realize how often we have chances to be grateful, and that we often, me included, don't take those opportunities to show our gratitude. But when someone is kind to us, when someone gives us something of themselves, then we are very concrete in the fact that we have reason to offer thanks for the life that we have been given. And we can be that beacon of gratitude for every other people that we ever encounter in this world. Every time we decide to be grateful, it will be easier to tell God of that gratefulness and to see new things to be grateful for. Gratitude begets gratitude, just as love begets love. This is the life of the Spirit into which Curtis is bound today. We will share gifts together, and we will have praise to God together for God's creation today. This week, I'm planning a trip, and I'm going to go to West Virginia to prepare for our future work that we're going to be doing there. And Kevin Sweeney's going down with me. And Kevin doesn't know it yet, but I got us a couple of air mattresses. We're going to sleep on the floor down there. And so Kevin and I are going to have a good time and get to know each other better, which is part of all sharing what we do together. To know each other, to support each other, to take care of each other, and to give of ourselves to others who need it. And that's what we're going down to West Virginia for. And we will come back, I believe, with a new heart. Just like Ezekiel says, I will put a new heart within you. God will put new hearts in us and change those hearts every time we open ourselves to the needs of others even further. And Curtis, you are born into that life here today, one in which the Spirit of God calls you to know that you're chosen for a purpose. That is why we have community. Community gives us the opportunity to live out that purpose, to live out our chosenness as one of God's creatures. And we learn during this life that joy and sadness are as close to each other as the splendid colors of the fall leaves of New England is to the barrenness of the trees in winter. Libby okay? She okay? Okay, thanks. But the fact that this intimate experience in which every bit of life is touched by a bit of death can point us beyond our own limits in this life. It can do so by making us all look forward in expectation to the day when our hearts will be filled with perfect joy, a joy that no one will ever be able to take away from us. And that is also part of what we're doing here today, to baptize little Curtis into that awareness and to that knowledge which will give him the strength as he goes through life and encounters life's journeys. The Son of Man came to give himself as a ransom for many, and we are all part of that many. You and I were ransomed not by things of seeming value, but instead by a thing of eternal value, the blood of Christ, a blood like a lamb, without blemish and without stain. And that's what cleanses us in our journeys. This morning we are all going to renew our baptismal vows openly and outwardly and in unison. And we will affirm this covenant, that we will seek and serve God in all persons, loving our neighbors as ourselves. We will also affirm that we will strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being. And we affirm that we will do each of these things with God's help, because it is a reality that we don't do them without God's help. That's why it's so important that we are here today to share in that vow, to recognize that vow and to honor that vow for each other and for the life of Curtis. So that call is what Curtis will now join us in what today we now reaffirm. So let us embrace that call. Let us do more than embrace that call. Let's make that call our very self, just as Christ did. Let us wake up every morning with this prayer: God, what do you want me to do today? Give me the gift of your Spirit and grant that I may know it, trust in it, and impart it to those whom I encounter, that I may be your face to them and see your face in them today, tomorrow, and forever. Amen.